Hello everybody, this is that one DBL YouTuber, and today I decided to do something a little bit different today. Today I'm going to be making a tier list for Dragon Ball Gekishin Squadra, ranking every single playable character that is currently in the game. There are about 30 characters you could currently play as, I believe, and I'm going to be ranking all of them. We have a top 3 for every role on the top, bottom 3 for every role on the bottom, and then the tiers in between. I'm sure everyone here already knows what a tier list looks like. And I do want to just point this out. This is entirely all my opinion, and I am not the best player in the world. The highest rank I have gotten in a season was Season 2, where I got A2 in damage. That is the highest amount of a rank that I have gotten in Squadra at all. So I just wanted to point that out. You have to take these with a grain of salt, because these are just entirely my opinion. Now, I'm going to go on a bit of a rant for the bottom 3, because we're already going to maybe just get into some fire right now. But I think the worst DPS in the game is Dabura. By far. Dabura, in my opinion, is god-awful. The problem with Dabura is that he's just so easily countered. All you have to do is get out of his petrification gauge, and then you're fine. It's so hard for Dabura to be able to get his petrification gauge off so he can stone spit you and actually get kills, because half the time when someone gets to half HP, or whenever they realize that their petrification gauge is going to be getting up, they just run away. The only way that Dabura can counter that is with his Darkness Spear, which is very weak, but it does give the no sidestepping debuff, which I would say is a pretty good debuff for that move. But besides that petrification gauge, he doesn't really have much going for him. He doesn't do a lot of damage at all, unless you're in petrification gauge. His rush attacks are pretty strong, but his skills are mediocre at best. Doomray is... I'm pretty sure Doomray is unavoidable, but it's pretty weak. Darkness Spear is awful on offense. It's just meant to make sure that your opponent won't get out of the petrification gauge. And then the Evil Flame, I mean, it's okay for chip damage, and it fills the petrification gauge up quite a bit. Your ultimate is terrible, though. It also fills up the gauge. But the thing is that for a DPS, usually what a DPS wants to do is do a lot of damage, as a DPS would want to do, as in the name of the role. But Dabura just doesn't do that. He kind of just sits there, hopes to God he could get the petrification gauge off, and he can't. He's basically dead weight. He's basically dead weight if he can't get the petrification gauge off, which is most of the time in a good lobby. In a good lobby, you usually just cannot get the petrification gauge off at all. But I will say, if you are able to get the petrification gauge off, you can do a lot. Your one-shot's basically a free ultimate. Anyone can kill you. You're basically dead if you're able to get petrification gauge off. But if Dabura can't get the petrification gauge off, he's basically just dead weight. Can't really do anything on offense. Sure as hell can't defend on his own. So he's basically kind of just not good. I would say he's by far the worst DPS in the game. To the point where I feel like if you have a Dabura on your team, you probably are just hindering yourself. But props to the people who play Dabura, because he is a very fun character to play. I play him sometimes, but he does suck. In my opinion, I think he is by far the worst DPS in the game. So, now we go on to our second character, who I think is the worst supporter in the game. I think the worst supporter is Krillin. Krillin is like a really strong character. He's kind of like just a DPS disguised as a technical. He does quite a bit of damage with his mines, and he can basically just put them anywhere. That's what happens when you have a move, basically a trapping move, that can be placed anywhere on the map. His mines do so much damage, and they're so versatile, but it just doesn't help much. He's pretty good on defense, But besides that, and yoinking bosses he's okay at, but besides that, what does he provide to the team? He can do decent amount of damage, but the thing is that all his damage comes from the mines, which you can't really just place on top of them. You can't just place them on top of a person in a 1v1, because they're probably just gonna see you do the animation and run off. You can't do your ultimate, because you want to save that for bosses. And then you have Solar Flare, which is your, like, good supporting move. It makes them blind, and then they can't attack you, they can't see anything, so they could just die from that. But besides the energy mines and defending, what does he provide for the team? He just doesn't do anything. Scattering Energy Wave is okay at sniping, but it's really weird to use. Your entire game plan is based around your energy mines, and usually you just want to defend the whole time. Which, for Krillin, yeah, it makes sense, but just having someone on defense the whole time isn't, the best. Usually whenever you can, you want to go help the team go into fights, because it's bad to have, like, a 4v3 constantly with one person on defense. But then Krillin, when he's trying to go out and go into those fights, he kind of just gets destroyed. He can't do much when he's in a big brawl. He'll just get destroyed. And that's how I feel about Krillin. He is also very fun. Most of these characters in the game, they're very fun to play, and I love it. But in my opinion, Krillin is by far the worst technical in the game. Now, for the worst tank that I think is in this game, it's Zamasu. Zamasu was mega broken in the beta. Most people probably know that. Whenever the game was still called Project Multi, when, like, the very first time when the game was conceived, Zamasu was so unbelievably stupid. Zamasu was so tanky. Zamasu had basically everything you could want. He wasn't a supporter character, but he was so good at tanking. He unironically did so much damage. It was so annoying. And the fact that he had 2 lives, he could be immortal, which I guess is fitting to his character. But he was basically unkillable if he could get off. If he could get away from a fight and then farm back up his gauge, he's basically immortal. Which, another thing I wanted to bring up about this was that he got nerfed in Season 0, which is the season before Super Saiyan 3, Goku, Toppo, and Gotenks came out. Which I did also want to bring up, because I forgot to point this out about Dabura. He didn't deserve the nerfs he got recently. He didn't need nerfs. Dabura was okay as is. He was decent before the nerfs, but they just shred him into the ground. But Zamasu got nerfed really heavily. And then he got buffed a little bit recently, but it didn't help him much. He could still get his gauge off. And it's not that he's a bad character. He could still be pretty viable as a tank. It's just, it's like a thing, it's basically just power creep at this point. All the tanks just, in my opinion, overshadow him completely. He's a pretty good crowd controller. You can get people out of other situations that they don't want to be in. But he doesn't have a good boss yoinking move. He's just not very strong. It's just power creep being a bitch. We don't like power creep. Zamasu, if I was thinking about buffs he could get, buffs I think Zamasu could definitely get is just maybe give him a bit more damage. Maybe give him a bit more damage and maybe a little bit more base health, but nerf him to the point where his gauge reduces faster or goes away faster, I guess. Those are the only buffs I could think Zamasu could use completely at all. Because besides that, I don't think Zamasu really could use much. Because I still think Zamasu's pretty decent. It's just power creep with all these other tanks in the game. Not to mention Bardock's going to be coming out, which could just shred Zamasu into the ground even farther. That Zamasu's just overshadowed by every other tank in the game. It's sad. Genuinely sad. But that ends off our bottom three for every rule. Now we just go on to, the mid-tiers, the characters that I think they're meh. Basically just meh, mid. And by far, the first character I'm going to start off with is Daimagoku. Daimagoku is my favorite character to play in this game. Which is sad, because I'm putting him in C tier. The bottom of C tier, actually. I think he's by far the worst character, second worst DPS in this game. Like, looking out at all these other DPSs in the game, currently I think Daimagoku is the worst. And now, Daimagoku does really, really good burst damage. He really benefits from Superstar. If you get a pretty good Divine Draw, he could be really good. But the thing is that I think Daimagoku needs a really big skill ceiling to master him. You constantly need to be staying in mid-range, raising up your battle gear to make sure Daimagoku does not die. And then you constantly have to be hitting Pansy Bomb, Glorio, Lightning Bolt combos, which those combos are very strong. Those combos are incredibly strong, but that's all Daimagoku really has going for him. Pansy Bomb by itself is meh. Glorio Bolt by itself is meh. And the Power Pole Dance is a good escape option, but that's it. But that's all Goku has. And then he has a really strong ultimate, but it has a really weird effect of it does more damage based on how much damage he would take during his invincible ultimate. It's really weird. So he's pretty good at yoinking bosses, especially when the whole team is there. But besides that, he just doesn't do much. You need to be good at sniping and aiming stuff, and you gotta make sure. A big thing that I realized with Daimagoku is that he's heavily aiming dependent. Is that you constantly want to make sure that you are blowing up the Pansy Bomb as fast as you can. Because often when you throw a Pansy Bomb, it's in the middle of a fight, and you're probably still going to be rush attacking someone, probably at the farthest range that you can be. But the thing is with that is that Goku's rush attack hits away Pansy Bomb in a direction that it could very well just not want to go in. So you always want to make sure that Pansy Bomb's detonating as fast as it can. And not to mention Daimagoku has some of the lowest base health in the game, so in team fights he just gets shredded. And he's really good. I would say he's pretty good with Snowball. You have high Snowball stats on him, he could be a pretty good asset to your team. It's just, again, power creeps being a bitch, and he didn't deserve the nerfs he got Season 3. I don't know why they nerfed him. I don't think Daimagoku was ever very good. I thought he was always just a mid-tier, but I think they kind of just made him worse from this season. I don't think he ever needed those nerfs. I thought he kind of just needed more buffs, and the only buffs that I think they could give him is probably a bit more base health, but I don't know if they would do that because it wouldn't fit his character well. And then, maybe, I don't know what else they could give him, honestly. Maybe just a bit extra burst damage or something. But besides that, I'm not sure. Make him a bit faster, maybe? But besides that, I'm not sure what else they could do. He's pretty good at yoinking the bosses, and he's mad at everything else. You just have to constantly land Glorio Pansy Bomb combos, in my opinion, for him to work. But that's Daimagoku, and I want him to get buffed really bad. Anyways, let's see. Who's the next character I want to talk about? Alright, because now... Okay, so I'm going to be, talking about every character. Actually, you know what? No, let's just do this. Let's just go from the top. Let's just talk about this guy right here, Super Saiyan Goku. Now, Goku at the start of the game, mega broken. Probably the best character in the game, completely. By far, he would, like, if this was a Season 1 ranking, these tiers would all be the same. This guy would probably be like 5 tiers above them. This guy was so broken. They have been nerfing him into the ground completely every season. First, they nerfed his Kamehameha. Then they nerfed his Meteor Hammer, but it wasn't as much as they nerfed the Beam. And now, this season, they shred him into the ground. They nerfed his Kaioken and the Meteor. So he doesn't do as much as he used to. So he's a lot more balanced. So I'm thinking about A tier for Super Saiyan Goku. He's a lot more balanced than he used to be. But he's still a pretty damn competent character. Still really good at sniping bosses. You just gotta be quick and on time with your spirit bombs. And especially whenever you get your anger ability. I don't exactly know the name of it, but the anger ability that Goku gets whenever one of his teammates dies. Whenever he gets that, he's still a monster. Like, he could probably just destroy teams on his own with that, and he could still destroy teams on his own anyway. It's just they've been nerfing him to the ground, so he's less of a monster as he used to be. So I guess everyone truly knew the horror that this character showed, and they're like, the devs are like, nope, alright, you gotta go. So I'm thinking about a solid A tier for now, but if this character was nerfed less, he'd probably still be S tier for me. Okay, so let's talk about Piccolo. Piccolo. So Piccolo is kind of in a situation with Krillin, where it's more of a zoning trapper character. He has Hell Zone Trap, which by far I think is one of his worst moves. I think it is actually his worst move. Hell Zone Trap, I think, is his worst move. But god damn, is Piccolo so unbelievably strong on bosses. Piccolo is by far, if not the best boss sniper in the game. If the opponent team or your team has a Piccolo on their side or your side, they're probably going to be heavily targeted the entire game. Because if you do not deal with Piccolo, they're going to get the boss. Unless they're just actual dunces and have no idea what they're doing. But yeah, no. If you do not deal with Piccolo, he's going to get the boss and you are going to lose. And if Piccolo is actually competent and knows how to land his attacks, like Light Grenade at max range, you could just lose anyway. Piccolo has such high burst ranged damage that it's actually insane how broken I think this guy is. Where'd he go? No, Bojack, you're not going down there. There you are, Piccolo. All right. I think this guy is probably S tier. He gets heavily targeted, and I think it's deserved. I don't think Piccolo is brain dead, and he takes a very, very high skill ceiling to master him. He's not the best on defense, but oh my god, on offense, he can shred through teams like wet paper, I swear. He's a monster, in my opinion. Now, Frieza, I could also think that Frieza's high S, B, A, maybe high B. It's one of these three. Frieza, in my opinion, is one of by far the most annoying characters to fight in the game. Just by far. Frieza's entire game plan is just yoinking the bosses and sitting on defense. In a way, kind of like Krillin, but a lot better at boss yoinking. Frieza is not very good on offense, but he is, oh my god, he is a monster on defense. Because all you do is you place Zarbon in the back of the god, and then you put Dodoria in the middle of the god to push them out of the god zone, and then whenever they're in anywhere else, Zarbon will just shoot them to death. And then you can use Imperial Decree to make them faster and stronger to the point where they can't even get a chip burst off, and they're probably just dead. Krillin, I don't know why I'm moving you. I think that Frieza is probably A. Frieza, and not even to mention his boss yoinking. Frieza is probably the character that can shred through bosses the fastest in the game. Because all you do, again, is place down Zarbon and Dodoria, boost them with Imperial Decree, then charge up your Supernova. And also, another thing that I haven't brought up with Krillin or Zamasu yet is that supports are pretty good at doing bursts on the tower because they can just run by and go fast. And I think that's really good for Frieza because I think one of the better cards for him is Gekishin High. Gekishin High is a pretty good card for him, I think. And then you would want to go Boss Killer and then something else. But yeah, Frieza I think is just a menace on defense and offensive bursts. Yeah, but in like fights, I don't think he's the best. He has way too low base health to be the best in fights, and if your subordinates die, you basically are dead weight because your rush attacks do little to no damage at all. But whenever it comes to bosses, oh my god. There have been so many times where I am either playing Frieza or I'm fighting Frieza, when the boss spawns, and then 5 seconds later, boom, I get the message where either I win the fight, where we get the boss, or we lost the boss, because Frieza just shreds through boss's health that fast. I think I might move Frieza up because of how annoying he is, but I think he's pretty good, so I'm going to keep him in A tier for now. Alright, Baby. Baby's a weird character. I personally don't even think he should have been a tank. I think he should have been a support because of his unique mechanic of being able to just absorb people's bodies and heal them. Boo's a healer. Boo's entire thing is healing. Why is Baby not a support? But whatever. Baby is also, I would say, a kind of mediocre tank, in my opinion. Because yeah, he's decently tanky, but again, I feel like he was more fit to be a supporter role. Just because of the healing and the buffs he gives everybody. Doesn't have a good ultimate for boss yoinking, but he does have a lot of ways to give himself extra HP and heal himself. He heals himself to max whenever you get into someone's body. And he gets extra HP depending on more people he hits with the ultimate. Really good move to get people away from you, the finger shots. But besides that, like, what else does he do? Again, I feel like he would have been just more suited for a support role than a tank role. So I'm going to put him in B tier. I think he's like a mid-tier character. Like, he could be pretty good. It just depends on how good the Baby is. And like, but there are so many other options for tank that you could use. For tank you can play than Baby that I feel like could just help a lot more.